What if the biggest obstacle to executing your strategy isn't your system, it's how honestly your people are communicating? Today's guest, Ken Bogard, is a 9-year EOS implementer who's worked with 80 plus companies and is the author of No Honesty, a framework built around one simple but radical idea that being 100% open and 100% honest is the real unlock for business performance. In this episode, Ken breaks down why honesty and openness are two very different things, why your scorecard only works if your culture does, and how growing disconnection is quietly killing leadership teams. This one's practical, personal, and punchy. Let's get into it. Ken Bogard, welcome along to Level 10 Leaders Podcast. So delighted to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Ryan. Let's go. What a pleasure. Can't wait to get into all of it.
I'm loving your energy already. Let's dive in. We like to start off these episodes with some fast fact questions, have the audience get to know Ken the man a little bit. Let's start off with, are you a breakfast or dinner guy?
Dinner all day?
Okay. What's on the menu tonight? Do you know?
No, but I like dinner more. It's take
Okay.
it slow, go easy, connect with family. That's what happens at
Nice.
dinner. Breakfast, I cram whatever I can in and I get on with my day, so I don't care
Nice.
what I eat.
Function at the beginning of the day and some form and family at the end.
Yes, 100.
I like that. Okay. On holiday, would we find you doing something adventurous like bungee jumping, or are you more of a lie in the pool lounger and read a book?
Lie around. I don't know if I'm reading a book. I'm probably watching a movie or going to the theater and checking out a flick. To me, that's a 2-hour vacation,
I like
is to
it.
get away, go imagine, fantasize, that kind of stuff.
Okay. Okay. Have you got a movie tip for us? Something you've seen recently that you enjoyed?
Well, I'm obsessed with Dune and the whole series of Dune as of late. It's been incredible. And I would say, I don't know, I think people are trying to always look for the perfect movie. Just go enjoy, don't even worry
So
about
with
what
you.
you're picking out all the time. We're
Yeah.
such critics all the time. I mean, just go to the theater, enjoy.
I almost have an inverse relationship with Rotten Tomatoes, the movie rating. I'm like, if it's getting a bad rating on Rotten Tomatoes, I'll probably like it quite a lot.
Yeah, that happens a lot. Yeah.
Okay. When it comes to learning, Ken, do you like, obviously you're a movie guy, but do you like video learning? Do you like auditory? Are you reading? What's your vibe for learning?
I think it's experiences that's how I learn. I throw myself in a lot of just scenarios that are different or uncomfortable, or meeting somebody, like meeting you for the first time and learning you. I think I get a lot of growth that way by interacting and engaging with people.
Mm.
Really, I'm blessed as an EOS implementer and the work I do at No Honesty to just be put into positions where I'm constantly learning. And so that beats everything else. And if I had to pick a platform where I'm not with others,
Yeah,
it's going to be audio for the most part, automobile university,
sure. Love it. Okay. Cats or dogs?
dogs all day.
Okay. Do you have a dog?
Yeah, I got a dog.
Okay. What breed is the dog?
He's a cockapoo. He wasn't my first choice.
Some family influence.
Oh, heavy, heavy.
Yeah.
He's hypoallergenic, which is great because our kids are, they're young and you never know. And we have family that comes over all the time. So he's so lazy. He's 2.5 years old and he lays around, he's so easy. So really,
Yeah.
we're blessed. And then for the cat people out there, I'm going to try to be open-minded, but I don't know why they do it. I just, I don't understand it. Those things are a threat.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. What do they say? Dogs have masters and cats have slaves.
Totally.
That's how I see it.
Yes.
Okay. Routine wise, Ken, are you an early riser or a night owl?
I'm a night owl for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I go
Okay.
late. I don't get up early. The 4 hour or whoever says get up really early. It's just not, that's not my chronotype. So
Sure.
sometimes people force against their chronotypes and it doesn't work. So I know my chronotype, if you will, and I sit in it really well. My next day is great.
Love it. Love it. Playing to the strengths. Ken, I think most of our listeners on the podcast are familiar with EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, and have an idea of what that's about. You mentioned you have another business, No Honesty. Can you tell us a bit about that one?
Yeah, happy to. So really before I started my EOS journey, I had this idea of just getting this world to be more honest in general. And I saw how a lack of honesty was just killing companies. killing entrepreneurs, killing leadership teams, people that would skirt the truth to try to get their way or manipulate the system and then hate what they do. And, it's pretty disgusting what I was seeing. And I'm a part of it too. I was a part of it in different roles. And I'm like, what am I doing? Started No Honesty, found EOS. And I'm like, EOS is the best mousetrap out there for every single small, medium-sized business. And so it's just the best. Why would you get anything else? So I became an implementer. I've been doing it for 9 years, and that's for 80 plus companies now. And No Honesty, though, it really launched in the last 2 to 3 years when we launched the book No Honesty. And then we put together workshops to help people become more open and honest. And that's it. And it sounds really simple, but we don't communicate effectively. You can believe whatever you want to believe, but I believe we have this God-given gift as a species to articulate better than any other species on the planet. Yet we don't. We don't speak with just this clean amount of communication, this effective communication. We muddy it up with skirting the truth and trying to meet everybody else's expectations. And then we wonder why we don't get what we actually want in life. And so there's this lack of honesty. And then also the other side of it is this lack of openness, which you automatically have through the work you do of having this podcast. But to really just hear people, try to understand them, where they're coming from, what they want, and hear them. I mean, that's half the equation of communication that in the United States is not favored. So, in the United States, honesty is favored over openness, but openness is like the secret sauce to connectedness.
And can you put a definition for us around openness? I think probably most of us have got a good anchor point around honesty, but what's your definition of openness?
Yeah, happy to. Openness is listening without reservation. It's putting your needs and wants on pause for someone else. That's it. Just shutting it all down and being totally present for you. So, Ryan, when you're speaking, truly, I'm shutting everything out of my life, all my other thoughts going on in my head, and I'm just really trying to hear you. And I think when you and I do that back and forth, where you're honest with me and I'm open to you, and I'm honest back at you and you're open to me, I mean, we've really cracked the code on human connection and communication.
Indeed. And Ken, with the, writing the book, I'm sure you did a bunch of research around that, and then having worked with over 80 companies now with the EOS system, plus your previous work experiences. What do you think drives the human behavior around a lack of openness and honesty? And I don't sense that everyone out there is trying to be a villain. So, if we cast aside maybe the small percentage of population that has evil intent, for the rest of the general population, what is it that you think holds them back from true openness and honesty?
Yeah, for your listeners, they could answer that because there's going to be about 1,000 different reasons. There's the boss that doesn't make the room safe. There's the lack of confidence somebody has to say their opinion. There's how they were raised. There's just all these fears, a lack of energy, historical baggage. I mean, there's just a laundry list. When we wrote the book, we had a whole chapter on it, Ryan. We wrote this thing. It was so good. And then when we got done with the book, right before we published, I'm like, I don't think we should have this chapter in here. Like, actually, if we teach people all the exceptions to being 100% honest and 100% open, you know what happens? Is people are going to want to run away with those exceptions. And I'm like, let's not put that into their mind, all these reasons that we wouldn't do it. And so we end up getting rid of that chapter. And it's like, well, let's get them more focused on being truly and freely themselves and just comfortable in their own skin. And we can do that. Man, I think we can bring a lot of light to the world and create opportunities for people to talk about real issues and put resolution, right or wrong, on the table and work through it better. So we end up purging that chapter.
Okay. And I'm so curious around this, Ken. So you mentioned the example of someone lacking self-confidence, and that can be a contributor to them being open and honest. Through the work that you do at No Honesty, how would you approach someone that you identify as that kind of lacking in confidence? How could they progress to more of a state of confidence?
Yeah, I think it's highly correlated to the relationships around them, and sure, some historical baggage they brought into current relationships. But you and I and everybody who's listening to this have a heavy role in creating the greatest amount of safety that we can. So if you think of I just think of a dictator, bulldog, visionary. They say whatever they want to in the room. Okay, well, to go toe to toe with them, no problem. You could say whatever you want to for the most part, and it'll be fine. For somebody who is lacking confidence, which in some regard is a bit rare for a leadership team, you know, so somebody with extreme confidence issues typically won't make it to a highly functional leadership team. So there's something there, but we'll meet them from time to time. I think what's really important is you can sense it. You know, you can sense when somebody's struggling with confidence. And what you have to do in that moment is make it as safe as possible for them to say whatever they want to. Show them that, look, you can tell me anything you want to, and I won't judge you. I just want to hear you. I want to learn you. You should say the craziest stuff you want to say, and I'm just going to listen to you without reservation. No judgment from me. Go ahead. What do you got? And then when they say it, you got to mean it. You truly have to be open. And I'm like, great. Can I share some honesty back with you? Here's where I'm going with it. And so they're getting reps and being who they truly and freely are. You can't do that in a non-safe environment.
Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. Okay. Can you share an example with us of maybe one of your EOS organizations? You don't have to name them, obviously, but where you've started working with them early, you've identified that there's some openness and honesty challenges, and then maybe the transformation you worked on with them and what you saw as a result on the other side?
Yeah, open and honest in general, you're talking about
Yeah.
just somebody.
Yeah.
So that is every team, Ryan. So as every team you and I work with, they will struggle with that. And to this day, you and I will as well. Nobody's 100% honest and 100% open 100% of the time. That is utopia. And someday we'll experience that, but it's not right now. And so we want our teams to push and lean into it more and more. You know, there's one particular team that stands out to me where I was working with three bulls, for lack of a better description, three bulls. They know who they are. They're in the book. But these three owners were just, their business was struggling. It was extremely difficult. And they would just keep talking and just shooting their ideas across the table to each other, but none of the three were listening to each other. And if they did listen a little bit, they would shoot the other person's idea so quick. It's like they didn't even get to hear the full idea. So these three people are just coming at each other constantly. And I'm just like, what is going on? And so a few sessions in, you know, they had this major meltdown and we had to get back into the room. They're like, look, the only way this is going to work is if y'all actually hear each other. And so no more interrupting each other. You know, no more just trying to seek to fulfill your own ideas because this is not a team. This is three people trying to create three different things. You know, and so really setting the stage for how we need to communicate is so important because most people come from a background of poor communication. Probably 95% of the world comes from a background of poor communication, if I had to put a percentage to it. And so I'm not mad at people like that. I'm just like, whoa, we have to teach them how to hear each other. We have to teach them how to get their idea out, and the other person's got to sit in silence and try to understand where they're coming from, and then they get to speak, you know. And so it's just trying to teach good behaviors around communication, and so we did, and it was not one rep, right?
I'm sure.
Multiple reps and multiple sessions, and I got so good at it. And this client just had tremendous success, like a 3-year picture. They're like, there's no way. You know, the only person that believed in that 3-year picture was the visionary. And everybody else is like, yeah, I don't believe it. Whatever, the visionary wants it, fine. And then they started figuring out how to communicate more effectively and they crushed it. They absolutely crushed their 3-year picture. And so it's just amazing what we can do when we actually operate in the realm of real communication that is 100% honest and 100% open as much as possible.
And what do you teach around nonverbal communication in this environment? Because I think you've talked about the three bulls there that were talking over the top of each other. You can certainly transition to a zone of not interrupting, but if you're sitting there with an eye roll and a big sigh and a shake of the head, you know, it's the equivalent of interrupting, right?
Yes.
How do you kind of encourage people to think about their nonverbal cues as well?
Yeah, it's interesting, Ryan, because I don't teach it. So I don't teach nonverbals, but I
Mhm.
think I model calling it out.
Hmm.
So, which is a form of teaching, I guess, without saying, hey, your arms are crossed. Do you know that means you're probably defensive or upset? Somebody like that, though, I'll be like, hey, you seem fired up to me. And it seems like maybe you don't want to interact with this particular conversation. Can you tell me what's going on with you? So just let me know. And you just kind of settle down the room. And I don't ignore nonverbals that seem hostile or disconnected. I'm going after them. So I think I model that. I don't typically teach it. I will teach in a way where I'm like, hey, you don't seem real open right now. So I'm bringing them back to the definitions that we talked about earlier. It doesn't seem like you're
Nice.
listening without reservation. Are you
Hmm.
not liking what you're hearing? Is there a reason your wall's up that you can't be open right now? What's going on?
I like it.
And so it is a form of teaching, but just not specifically to nonverbals.
Okay. And you mentioned that you think maybe around 90% of people don't learn good communication skills. Uh, you have children, Ken. What are you doing at the most elementary level of growing young children as a parent? What are you trying to instill in your children for around communication?
Yeah, that's great, Ryan. That's probably the next book, because this is theory at this point when we're talking about children. My kids are 6 and 8. So, I'm not coming from a wealth of knowledge on that one. I can't claim I'm an expert. I deal with adult children all the time, myself included, my wife included, you included. And so, there's some relationship there. But I'll teach my kids honesty and openness a bit. But I'm not being too overt on it yet. And they know, hey, that's not listening. Hey, can you shut down everything else and just hear what I'm saying? I'll do the same for you. So there's a little bit that I'm dropping in there, but I think as they
Nice.
grow and get a little more mature, it'll firm up. And they're starting to, you can sense that they're naturally getting it because they're around their mom and myself. And
Yeah.
so they're picking up on it. But I'm not the expert, Ryan. I'm not the expert.
Totally. And I think modeling good behavior, as you've talked about earlier, is a great thing to do as a parent. I think one of my uh, greatest parental advice moments. I was
Yeah,
talking to
we
a
got.
friend, and he had three kind of late teenage, early 20s daughters at the stage I was talking to him. My daughter at the time probably would have been 10 or 11 years old. And just sort of a little bit tongue in cheek, I said to Fred, who, is a bit of a larrikin, likes to have a party. He was a great, great guy. And I, a little bit tongue in cheek, said to him, "Hey, Fred, what advice do you have for me? Raising a teenage daughter." And I could see him switch out of like fun Fred guy into quite serious mode. And he's like, "The very best thing you can do is treat your wife well, because your daughter will grow up seeing what a great relationship and what respect from a partner looks like, and that's the very best thing you can do as a parent." And I was like, wow,
Oh,
that is so on point. I love that.
yeah,
It
that's good.
was
So
really
when
good
I'm
advice.
short, so when I'm short and I'm a little bristly with my wife, I ought to investigate that behavior. Is that what you're
I think
saying?
you should take a moment to reflect on that, Ken. Yeah,
All right, that's good.
yeah, there we go. Here's a quick break. If you're a CEO or senior leader scaling a growing business, listen up. Here's the truth. Most companies don't have a strategy problem, they have an execution problem. So here's a quick win. Take 2 minutes to complete the execution strength diagnostic. Get an instant report that shows you exactly where your execution is leaking. Take the diagnostic at level10.us/execution. That's level10.us/execution. It's free, it's fast, and it'll show you the real gap between your strategy and what's actually happening day to day. Now let's get back to the podcast. Let's change gears. We talked about one of the other key elements of success in business, maybe in life, is data and just how critical that is. Can you expand on your experience with how important that is, and yeah, really unpack for us maybe what are organizations not measuring that they should be?
So data can seemingly seem unsexy to talk about, or people are just sick of data, or they're sick of reporting, or I don't know. There's just reasons people don't gravitate towards data. And before I dive into data, I think for your audience, it's highly relevant in the EOS community. So the tools of EOS, do not work if you are not open and honest. So if you cannot be open and honest around data and the expectations you want to see from a human being, they won't work. So if you're just throwing up something to just throw something up and you don't even view it as relevant, or honestly, it's not measuring something good, well, then what are we doing? It's not going to work. Or if your sales leader is not even open to the idea of a scorecard, which is a weekly tool to measure how we're doing with facts, figures, and data, well, then it's not going to work. So the openness and honesty, it's great that we hit that in the beginning because it really applies to everything else. And so with data, the thing I want to share with you with data and just people being sick of data or not really embracing it. Here's the thing, Ryan, are you drinking anything right now?
I've got a bit of water on the side of the podcast
Okay.
here.
So you get water. There's how many ounces in the cup? It's water, so there's not going to be calories. But how heavy is the glass? How long is this podcast? How long does it take you to get to New Zealand today? How many people on the flight? How many germs floating in the air? Sorry to put that in your head.
So I already thought about that.
Okay, got it. And then how many comments? How many people are going to watch this podcast? Like humans have this innate thing. It's in us to just measure constantly. Whether it's consciously or unconsciously, we're measuring all the time. And then we go into a business and we're like, oh, let's not measure. It just doesn't compute. That doesn't make sense. Actually, it's not even natural to not measure based on human beings' acts and how they behave.
I like that. You made me think of an example in our own business. One of the metrics we have on our scoreboard is number of marketing qualified leads that we achieve each week, so MQLs. And we were hitting good green, consistently green, but it just really didn't feel like it was driving the next step of our sales process lead conversion. So I guess we took an open and honest approach to not just going, hey, we set this target of getting X number of MQLs, we're ticking it, great job, don't need to IDS it, it's all good. We did choose to IDS it and really pull apart, like, what are we actually measuring here in MQLs?
Yeah.
And it turned out a big chunk of the MQLs we were measuring were really somewhat irrelevant to our sales conversion process.
Right.
They weren't irrelevant as MQLs in a different light in our business, but in terms of what we were really trying to be focused on, they just didn't work. So I think through a really open and honest reflection through our senior leadership team at our level 10 meeting, we were able to unpack that and go, we just need to measure this differently. So it's a good data point, but the definition of how we were measuring it really needed to change to be of any value, because otherwise it was just a vanity metric of us going, oh, look, we got green again.
Oh, that's so good. How rich. Hey, how long did that IDS take to get to that particular solution, do you think? Like how?
Yeah, look, it probably took us a week because I think the first IDS iteration was around us going, what do we really want to be measuring here, and are we doing that? And then we needed to go and do some work in the background. We needed to go and, excuse me, unpack the way we measure our MQLs in our CRM system and identify, could we measure it differently? How could we highlight just the things that we really did want to measure? And then we're able to bring that back to SLT in our next level 10 meeting the following week and go, hey, I
Yeah,
think we're going to change. And honestly, share the awareness that our scoreboard's going to go from green to red because we've
right.
just changed the game. We've changed the rules.
Yeah.
So it was like a heads up that before it gets green again, it's going to go red. But it's going to be, over the long term, it's going to be a much better thing for us to measure.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I think if we can create that discipline in all of our clients what if you just took one scorecard number a week, and so in 10 weeks, if you do the math, and I think that you really put some work into it if it took you a week to IDS it, which is great.
Yeah.
But let's just take that week-long thing, and then you just did one week, how meaningful and rich your numbers become, and you're battling over it. And so people are consciously working on, does this number matter? And then more people are, how you did it, more people are bought in because all hands were on deck for that, right? It wasn't just you
Hmm.
dictating, here's the number I want you to take, right? They had a voice in it,
Yeah.
at least how you're telling me. And so, just being more conscious over data just makes companies so much stronger. And the ones that do, I have this wall in my session room that it's just a wall of all the just clients have sent me gifts, branded gifts. And it's just really cool, the different things I have. But I think of the ones that are really excelling or growing, and they just obsess over results and data. And they use facts and figures and conversations like you would not see in most small, medium-sized businesses is just because they've surrounded it and created this data-based world in their organization that's really healthy because it's based on facts and figures. So, well, how much can go wrong? You're stripping a lot of emotion out of it because it's like, hey, these are just the facts. Not trying to catch you. We're not micromanaging you. We're just showing you, hey, here's what you did or did not hit, and then
Yeah.
managing based on that, not just reporting on it. So,
Yeah, and I love that fact piece of data. It's like again, it's not emotionally charged. It's not an opinion. It's like it just is or it isn't. How do and what can we do about that? And I think that's in our own business something we've observed. It's easy to go because hey Ken, you own that number. I think it's easy to make it it's all yours, all your responsibility. And I think that's something we've really had to consciously kind of think about. Whilst you might be responsible for the number, the question is always, how can we help? What are
yeah.
other parts of the business doing that could assist or are blocking you in achieving that number? Do you need different resources to hit the goals that we've set, rather than just going, Ken, you missed your number again. Ken, you missed your number again. That I mean, it doesn't bring a lot of joy for anyone in the business, right?
Sure. Sounds like you built a healthy culture around data. Yeah, because it can get nasty, right? It can get a little bit nasty. Like we're beating up on people that are red. Well, that's not the
Yeah,
purpose here.
yeah, yeah.
Right. Well, it's to create awareness and then how you treat it. I mean, you're the expert in the people performance side of things, but yeah, some people abuse it the wrong direction. But it's good.
Yeah, and I think it's an easy trap to fall into, right? We're all kind of busy, we've all got lots on, we turn up to our SLT and we're like, oh, Ken, your number's been read 3 weeks in a row. What's going on? When are you sorting that out? And it's
Yeah.
easy to kind of be in that mentality rather than stepping back and going, let's be open and honest. Let's hear from you what's going on. Let's understand what the constraints are, because I'm pretty sure you're not trying to have a red scoreboard number.
Right.
There's no bad intent here, but
Yeah.
yeah, helping us unpack that as a team, which is what the EOS system is wonderful around, like really using that whole IDS process to bring the team power to helping solve these things.
100%. 100%. Have you covered scorecard in this podcast before with concerted
We
effort?
had yeah, so Mark Stanley, which
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
wrote the
Good.
data book.
That
So
makes sense.
we've had Mark on the podcast. So we talked a bit about scorecard and data and that. But look, it's not a topic that gets old because I think we're observing as our business evolves. Our scorecard needs to keep evolving. And I love your idea of like, hey, once a week, choose one of the numbers and go, is it still serving you? What's the value? I think it's a great approach.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool. Great.
that's good. Okay. We talked also a little bit about growing disconnect. I think we maybe see this at a societal level. I'm curious to hear your take on it from a business perspective. What are you observing?
So the statement to kick it off with, I can't wait to hear where you take it. To kick it off with is we are arguably more connected to the entire world than ever before. I can reach out to somebody in Afghanistan, New Zealand, Russia. I mean, it doesn't matter, just anywhere.
Crazy.
It's just at your fingertips. And so we're so connected. My father, who lives an hour away, my relatives are all over the place. We could just reach out to them. Yet, the general feeling is we're more disconnected than ever before. Make some sense of that to me. And this topic is a good one. I'll warm it up with EOS. And so for people that know EOS really well, we bring a leadership team into the session room, and it's somewhere between 3 to 9. I'd like to say ideally 5 people that are in that room, and we tell them no electronics. And it's just the 6 of us for somewhere between 7 to 9 hours of just connecting and working through problems. And I'd like to say, if I think of all 80 clients that I've had I'd like to imagine the movie that plays out in my head, and it's just a movie, is Ken is so incredible. Oh, Ken is so great. Just when we go to his session room, it's all about Ken. Well, that's just a movie. It's a fantasy, you know. And I'd also like to think that, just EOS, like, man, has given them the tools to just blow up their life to the next level. I'd like to think that too, but that's also to a degree a movie and a fantasy. Really, what they love is coming together as human beings and shutting it all down and being there for each other. Like how often I hear people say, wow, did I need this? And what this means is time with each other. What this didn't mean is like, oh, thank you for that scorecard tool and that accountability chart. Now, it certainly helped. Or this does not mean Ken Bogard. This meant like time with the people in my life I spend most of my life with
Sure.
right here, and so I think that is something special that EOS has given. And I pray we don't move into an AI world that disconnects that leadership team even more. I pray that they close their laptops more and we don't pull our laptops out more because what people are begging for the feeling I just told you of disconnectedness, begging for connectedness. And so EOS in many fashions is giving that.
It is. Let me share a insight we had on our side, Ken.
Okay.
We found when we implemented EOS, because it has such good structure in a lot of its environments, and I'll use the level 10 meeting as an example because this is where we observed it. It's a very, very good structure, and I felt it was a very efficient structure. It allowed us to get through things with a lot of clarity. What we were finding once we moved to the level 10 meeting was that it was leaving less space for the I'll term it the wandering conversations,
Mm.
this, where it wasn't being put through a formal IDS process. It's just like, oh, I've kind of been kicking around an idea. What do you guys think about that? That kind of vibe. And those kind of conversations help with the connectedness, I believe. So
Yeah.
how do you see those kind of conversations? So I get it in a session room, it's a dedicated day, it's once a quarter, you can really create an environment for connectedness. How would you encourage your teams to find that connectedness day to day in the work environment, where sometimes those conversations that are wonderful that don't need an agenda. In fact, sometimes an agenda can kind of squash the creativity maybe a little bit. How do you try and tackle that with the teams you work with?
Yeah, I think it brings this whole podcast full circle. Let's just say you're a part of my family, Ryan, and we go to Thanksgiving dinner together. And it's like, great, right? Ryan traveled all the way from Colorado to be here, and now we got him. And, you're trying to connect with the family, and I got a wall up because I want nothing to do with you. For whatever reason, I'm grouchy. I don't know. I got something going on in my marriage, so I don't, I'm just not in the mood. Or you present as somebody you are not. You're trying to meet the expectations of the family. And sometimes I think have this shallow feeling at Thanksgiving dinner because they're
Yeah.
just trying to meet everybody's expectations in the room and be who they are not. And so the conversations do wander. They're also not even real or authentic. They're just these surface level type things. If we established a space that allowed everybody to be truly and freely themselves, like, crazy Uncle Bob gets to just say what crazy Uncle Bob wants to say, and the rest of us listen to it. Now, we don't have to agree, but we do agree to listen to it. And then we get to tell Uncle Bob, you're crazy. And Uncle Bob listens to us. But these are not the rules established in families. And a lot of times aren't established in leadership teams. We're not taught the right way to communicate. If anything, how I was raised, my father, he'd say, shut up and do your job. And that'd be a normal, okay. Well, many people have been raised that way. Or don't share that, or those are feelings we don't talk about, and so think about how we've been taught in many ways. Teachers in the classroom, hey, Becca, sit down and don't speak that way, and hey, quiet until the lesson's done. Just all these rules and these stifling things that get pressed upon us at a very young age that we bring into the future. And so here we are at Thanksgiving dinner with all these bad behaviors. Here we are at the leadership team session room with all these bad behaviors. And so how important it is to educate the family and educate the leadership team that look, when we're in this space together, we're going to be 100% honest and 100% open, or try as hard as possible to be those two things. I was speaking at I was opening for a lean consortium. It was this awesome conference, and I'm like, all right, I want to tie communication to lean. And it's interesting how everybody has a different definition of lean. But how I take lean is increase value, cut the fat, and gain efficiencies wherever you can. So, I mean, just in a nutshell. And I look at communication the same way. How do you create value? Well, just be honest and authentic. Get all the fakeness out. And then how do you cut the fat? Well, we can't space out and not listen to somebody. That's also not efficient. And how do we gain efficiencies? It's by just making sure that everybody's nice and crisp with their communication. And the crispness I'm talking about is just be honest and don't dance around it. Just be open and quit interrupting. So there's a way to gain a ton of efficiency in communication, the way you're talking about as well. And it's really through those two simple pieces of the equation. Don't confuse communication by huge words like vulnerability. Now, it's very important. Vulnerability is important. But you throw that into the mix. There's one on suicidal empathy that got thrown into the mix. If you know what that is, look it up if you don't. And just these big words that just convolute and confuse communication. It's two things to make it real and efficient: 100% honest and 100% open.
So, Ken, I am so curious how you lead off Thanksgiving with your family. Is there
Yeah.
is there like a little speech from you at the beginning going, "Hey, I'd like us to lean into being open and honest today, and this is what I think it might look like." Like, do you go there?
We do prayer, and I,
Okay.
and I think in a way where everybody's allowed to be heard. So go around the table and, what are you thankful for, and those kind of things. And I think the environment we have at Thanksgiving is an environment where it feels safe. We're not judging people with opinions. If it gets a little political, it's always a hot button. But it's like we're trying to be open to those conversations, and so
Sure.
I think we're trying to model the behavior. Hey, maybe this year I do pull out the whiteboard though, that I'm like,
Do it,
hey,
dude.
all right,
Do
here we
it.
go.
I would love that. I would love that. If you could just like capture that on video and drop it on LinkedIn or something for us as
Yeah, well,
well,
that's good. Or you
that'd be
can
great.
come. Well, I don't know. You want to come to Lincoln?
Let's go. Let's
All
go.
right, bud.
And is Uncle Bob getting invited this year? Is he
Oh
back
yeah,
and he's good?
for
Okay.
sure.
Hey, look, we've all got a crazy Uncle Bob.
Uh-huh.
Exactly what you're talking about, the openness and honesty, they're two words, but they're really behaviors. And even just in our very short conversation today, I can feel that behavior from you. And it's been such a joy to talk and discuss some of these concepts with you, because I just know you're coming at it with open and honesty. There's no hidden agenda or anything to identify. And it's such a good insight to like, wow, if just all of us in the world were bringing that open, honest approach to our conversations, our engagements with each other, regardless of whether we consider ourselves on one side or the other, wow, it would really be a powerful impact to the world. So thank you for the work you're doing, and thank you for literally being so open and honest on our conversation today.
Well, thank you for the platform to do that. I mean, in itself, a podcast with a great host like you're creating that kind of environment where people can do that and learn, deeper below the surface. And so, kudos back at you. Appreciate it, Ryan.
Thanks, Ken. If someone on our listeners today is like, wow, Ken, I love what you're talking about, I'd love to connect with you, where's the best place for them to connect?
Yeah, two spots. You go to nohonesty.com and check out our website and just play around on there a little bit. There's an assessment that measures how open and honest you are, and it's called the Pursuit of Honesty Assessment. So you can find it on our website, nohonesty.com, KNOW, no. And take the assessment, and it's free. It'll be free for a while, and see what your numbers are in your work life and your personal life, and maybe make Thanksgiving a little bit better. And then the other side of it is, look me up on LinkedIn and connect with me. You don't have to agree with what was shared here today. So if anybody reaches out and they disagree with a concept or they love the concept, it's great. I want to have that kind of conversation with someone.
Yeah. And I think part of being an open honest is being willing to enter into disagreement, and disagreement doesn't mean a refusal to hear the other person's opinion.
Yeah,
It just means
100.
being open to hearing to it. Like, hey, we may not land on common ground, but we can be open to hearing the other person's opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah.
good.
Hey, Ken, you've been a absolute star. Thanks for joining us today, and can't wait to join you at Thanksgiving.
All right. Cheers, brother.
Thanks for tuning in to Level 10 Leaders. If today's episode hit home, here's one action to take right now. Do the execution strength diagnostic at level10.us/execution. That's level10.us/execution. It's fast, free, and will show you exactly where your execution is leaking. Hit subscribe, share this with one person who needs to break through the ceiling and crush their growth goals. Stay tuned for the next episode where we'll show you exactly how to level up to level 10.